Have you ever maybe had a minor mishap in the kitchen, spilled something, and then suddenly realized it sparked an idea for a totally new recipe?
Oh, yeah. Happens all the time.
Or maybe you were just, tinkering with something and it unexpectedly did something completely different, maybe even better than what you intended.
Right.
Well, today we're taking a deep dive into exactly those moments. We're looking at the fascinating world of accidental inventions and discoveries, the ones that really profoundly changed our world.
Yeah, things that weren't really sought after, but just found. Often through a lucky turn of events, but there's usually more to it than just luck.
Exactly. And to guide us, we've pulled together, well, quite a stack of sources. We've got detailed historical accounts from history and PBS News, some really intriguing insights from MIT, Sloan Management Review, and Wikipedia, plus a bunch of other popular science articles.
Right. And our mission today, really, is to unpack not just what was accidentally discovered, but maybe more importantly, how these moments of chance were actually leveraged.
How people grabbed onto them.
Exactly. We want to explore the underlying principles that turned a quote-unquote mistake or some weird observation into a monumental breakthrough, hopefully offering you a kind of shortcut to being well-informed about these hidden forces of innovation and maybe, how you might even cultivate them yourself.
Okay, so let's unpack that a bit. When we hear accidental invention, it sounds like pure blind luck, right? Almost like a lightning strike. But I mean, is it really that simple? Just being in the right place, right time?
That's such a good question because, what's fascinating here is how often the concept of serendipity comes up.
Yeah.
Louis Pasteur famously said, chance favors only the prepared mind.
The prepared mind.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this isn't just about a happy accident landing in your lap. It's about well, the word they use is sagacious,
Yeah.
a clever, perceptive person being able to recognize the potential in that accident and then, crucially, exploit it.
Ah, so recognize and exploit.
hmm Scholars like Royston Roberts and Richard Gowan, they note that these accidental discoveries, they're really a convergence, a meeting point of preparation, opportunity, and the desire, the drive to explore that strange thing you just saw.
So it's not passive at all. You need the background knowledge, the curiosity, maybe the stubbornness to dig deeper when something doesn't look right. What kind of impact does this have on, like, science overall?
Well, it's pretty significant, actually. Psychologist Kevin Dunbar and his colleagues, they estimate that somewhere between 30% and maybe even 50% of all scientific discoveries have some accidental component.
Wow, 30 to 50%. That's huge.
It's massive. And it often starts with what researchers sometimes call bugs in an experiment,
Yeah.
unexpected results that initially might just make you doubt yourself.
Right, you think, oh, I messed up the procedure.
Exactly. But the prepared mind doesn't just dismiss it and rerun the experiment. It investigates. Yes, why did that happen? This process, it can involve forming little local hypotheses first, then maybe broadening the approach, talking to colleagues, maybe even folks in totally different fields.
So collaboration comes into it too.
Definitely. The scientific method itself, with its controlled, cautious, but also curious aspects, it's actually uniquely suited for identifying these little anomalies, these unexpected turns.
That makes a lot of sense. The unexpected result isn't a failure, it's actually data. It's a prompt for deeper thinking. Can you give us an example where someone really embodied that prepared mind?
Absolutely. Let's take Albert Hofmann. He's the chemist who discovered the psychedelic properties of LSD. Now, he described it as a chance discovery, sure, but he crucially added that it was also the outcome of planned experiments within the framework of systematic pharmaceutical chemical research.
So he was looking for something else entirely, but in a structured way.
Precisely. He called it serendipity because his training, his mindset, it allowed him to notice and then explore this completely unexpected effect he accidentally encountered. He was prepared to see the significance.
Okay, but what happens when that prepared mind isn't maybe open enough? Or maybe it's too prepared with existing ideas?
Yeah, that's a critical distinction, and it happens. Psychologist Alan Baumeister contrasts Hoffman with another researcher, Robert Heath. Now, Heath encountered evidence of what we now call pleasure brain circuits in his work. He saw the data.
But he didn't recognize it.
He didn't recognize it for what it was. His mind was prepared, you could say, but it was prepared based on his prior beliefs, his expectations. It kind of blinded him. He was looking for other outcomes, and so he completely missed these groundbreaking findings right there in front of him.
Wow. So prepared has to mean prepared to be wrong about your initial assumptions too, prepared to be surprised.
Exactly. Openness is key. It really highlights that.
That's a really powerful lesson. And thinking about it, the history of medicine, it just seems full of these moments where someone turned an oversight or a contamination or a side effect into a life-saving discovery.
It truly is. I mean, let's look at probably the most famous example, penicillin.
The classic.
The absolute classic.
Yeah.
So 1928, bacteriologist Alexander Fleming gets back from vacation, finds one of his petri dishes with Staphylococcus bacteria, has this mold growing on it, Penicillium notatum.
Just a contamination, really.
It's just a contamination. But the area around the mold was miraculously clear of bacteria. Something in that mold was killing the staph. Now, Fleming, he published his findings in 1929, but he wasn't entirely sure about its practical use. It was really hard to purify back then.
So again, his prepared mind saw the phenomenon, hey, this mold kills bacteria. But the application, how to actually use it to treat people, wasn't immediately obvious. That seems to be a recurring theme, doesn't it?
It absolutely is. Recognition first, application maybe later. So a decade passes. Then, chemists at Oxford University, Howard Florey, Ernst Chain, Norman Heatley, they read Fleming's old paper, and they decide to take up the challenge. Let's purify this stuff.
And they succeeded where Fleming hadn't quite managed.
They did. They figured out how to stabilize it and produce it in larger quantities.
Yeah.
Penicillin was first tested on a patient in 1940, saw widespread use by 1942, especially during World War II, and the impact was just staggering. It dropped the death rate from bacterial pneumonia in the war from about 18% down to less than 1%.
Just incredible. Life-changing.
Truly. And get this, even the strain of mold that made mass production truly possible was another accidental find.
No way.
Yes. A lab assistant, Mary Hunt, sometimes called Moldy Mary. She brought in a cantaloupe she found at the market that was covered in this pretty golden mold. It turned out to be Penicillium chrysogeum, and it yielded something like 200 times more penicillin than Fleming's original strain.
That's amazing. So it's like layers of accidents and prepared minds building on each other.
Layers of serendipity, you could absolutely say that.
So penicillin is the big one, but what other life-saving discoveries kind of fell into our laps through these fortunate blunders?
Well, there's warfarin. It's a common blood thinner now. That was discovered, surprisingly, not in a sterile lab initially, but out in fields where livestock were dying from this mysterious bleeding disease.
From eating something.
Exactly, from eating moldy sweet clover. Scientists investigated the cause, eventually isolated the anticoagulant compound from the clover, and realized its medical potential.
Wow. From sick cows to heart medication.
Pretty much. And then, of course, there's Viagra. That was initially being tested for angina and high blood pressure. But the clinical trials revealed this rather unexpected side effect related to erectile dysfunction.
Which turned out not to be a side effect at all, but the main event.
Precisely. The company pivoted, and, well, the rest is history. It became its primary use, and obviously hugely successful.
And you mentioned devices, too, even things that, literally keep hearts beating.
Indeed. The implantable cardiac pacemaker. Wilson Greatbatch invented it in 1956. He was actually trying to build a device to record heart sounds.
Okay, so listening to the heart.
Right. And he accidentally reached into his box of parts and pulled out a resistor with the wrong resistance value. Completely wrong. He installed it in a circuit.
And instead of recording,
the device started emitting these steady electrical pulses, like a tiny heartbeat. And in that moment, Greatbatch realized, wait a second, this could regulate the human heart. That one small mistake completely changed the direction of his work and, frankly, medical history.
Just from grabbing the wrong tiny component, it really shows how a misstep, if you're paying attention, can lead you down a completely new and even more valuable path.
Exactly. Pay attention to the oops.
Okay, so it's not just life-saving medicine, which is obviously incredible, but some of our most common everyday items also have these kinds of surprising origin stories. This is where things get, really relatable, I think.
Oh, absolutely. This is where it gets fascinating because these are items you probably have interacted with, maybe even today. Take the humble smoke detector.
Got one on the ceiling.
Most people do, thankfully.
Yeah.
Back in the 1930s, a Swiss physicist, Walter Jaeger, he wasn't trying to detect fires. He was actually trying to invent a sensor for poison gas.
Oh, completely different application.
Totally different. But his device, it kept getting triggered by the smoke from his cigarette. Instead of being annoyed, he realized, this thing is really sensitive to smoke particles. And that led to the invention of the modern smoke detector. Took a while to catch on, but they started appearing widely in homes in the 1970s. Saved countless lives. He wasn't looking for fire, but smoke kind of found him.
That's brilliant. What about something like Velcro? That feels like such a design thing, but I suspect there's a story there.
Oh, a classic accidental observation. So 1941, Swiss engineer George de Mestral takes his dog for a walk in the Alps. They come back, and both he and the dog are covered in these annoying little burrs, cockleburs specifically.
Yeah.
Now, most people would just curse and pick them off. But de Mestral, being an engineer, got curious.
You look closer.
He looked closer. He put them under a microscope and saw these tiny little hooks on the burrs. They were snagging onto the loops in his fabric trousers and his dog's fur. And the light bulb went off.
Hooks and loops.
Hooks and loops, nature's fastener. This inspired him to try and create a synthetic version. It actually took him over a decade of tinkering to perfect it.
Wow, 10 years from burr to product.
Yeah, it was an instant. He patented Velcro in 1955. The name, by the way, comes from the French words velours, meaning velvet, and crochet, meaning hook. NASA was famously an early adopter, using it on spacesuits and to secure things in zero gravity, which is why a lot of people mistakenly think NASA invented it.
Ah, okay. But it was de Mestral and his dog walk. That's pure prepared observation leading to biomimicry.
I had to
Fantastic.
just paying attention on a walk.
All right. And what about those little sticky notes, the ones that are probably plastered all over my monitor right now?
Ah, the Post-it note. This might be the quintessential example of a solution without a problem.
Solution without a problem. What do you mean?
Well, in 1968, a scientist at 3M named Spencer Silver were trying to develop a super strong, super sticky adhesive, like really strong.
Okay, the opposite of a Post-it.
Exactly the opposite. But he accidentally created this weird adhesive that was, well, it was weak. It was low tack, pressure sensitive, and crucially, reusable. You could stick it on, peel it off, stick it again.
So a failure, basically, based on his goal.
A total failure for his objective. He literally had this solution without a problem for 5 years. He went around 3M showing it to people like, hey, I invented this weird sticky stuff. Any ideas? No one really knew what to do with it.
Until
1974, when a colleague, Art Fry, was singing in his church choir. He used little slips of paper to mark the hymns in his hymn book, but they kept falling out.
Ah, I can see where this is going.
Right. He remembered Silver's useless adhesive. He thought, what if I put that stuff on my bookmarks? He tried it. It worked perfectly. They stuck, but they peeled off without damaging the page. And the signature canary yellow color, also an accident. That just happened to be the color of the scrap paper they had available in the lab next door.
That is unbelievable. A failed glue, a frustrated choir singer, and scrap paper. That's the Post-it.
That's the Post-it. It perfectly highlights the importance of, not immediately throwing away something just because it doesn't fit your original plan. Hold on to those weird results.
If the failure's in a drawer somewhere, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. And this theme, this idea of a failed experiment, finding a completely new life, it repeats over and over. Think about Teflon.
Non-stick pins, right.
Exactly. 1938, Roy Plunkett at DuPont. He was researching refrigerants, working with this gas, tetrafluoroethylene. One day, a cylinder that was supposed to be full of the gas seemed empty, but it weighed the same as when it was full.
Huh. That's weird.
Super weird. So he cut it open. Inside, he found this strange, slippery white powder. The gas had unexpectedly polymerized, turned into a solid. He started testing the powder and discovered it was incredibly heat resistant, super slippery, low surface friction, and didn't react with corrosive acids.
Not useful for refrigerants, I guess.
Not at all, but perfect for non-stick cookware, among many other things. A total lab mishap leading to a revolutionary new material.
It really is amazing. Okay, so we've seen how individual insight and that prepared mind can really seize on these accidental discoveries. But moving up a level, how do organizations like big companies intentionally try to foster these happy accidents? You can't just schedule serendipity, can you? It seems like a massive challenge.
It is a massive challenge, and you're right, you can't schedule it. But you can create conditions that make it more likely. And this raises a really important point, because our sources suggest many potential innovations are actually lost. They get shut down because companies give up on projects before their true, maybe radical potential becomes clear.
They pull the plug too soon.
Often, yes. There was this seminal analysis done at DuPont back in 1968. They asked their R&D managers to look at early-stage projects and predict which ones would be the big discontinuous breakthroughs, game changers.
Okay, asking the expert.
Right. 30 years later, they went back and looked at the results. Turns out the managers were wrong more often than they were right. 3 specific projects they'd predicted would fail materials you might know as Tyvek, Serlin, and Kleiser actually became huge, clear winners for the company.
Wow. So even the experts inside the company with all their data and experience struggled to spot the radical potential early on. Well, it's pretty humbling.
It really is. And our sources confirm this is a widespread difficulty. One study showed that something like 92% of projects that ended up being substantially or radically innovative were initially just expected to be small incremental improvements.
92%. So how can companies avoid missing these hidden gems when their own R&D teams often get it wrong at the start?
Well, the research suggests organizations need to actively cultivate specific competencies. Two key ones are called proactive discovery and wide-eyed incubation.
Okay, break those down for us. Proactive discovery, what does that look like in practice?
Proactive discovery means teams don't just wait for accidents. They actively try to identify myriad possibilities for an invention or a technology, even really out there ones. A key part of this is reaching out beyond the usual suspects, talking to thought leaders, experts, even customers across totally different industries to provoke divergent thinking.
So casting a really wide net for ideas.
Exactly. DuPont, for example, after developing a new biodegradable polyester, they actually placed ads in scientific journals, basically saying, hey, we made this new stuff. Any ideas on how to use it? That led to over 20 completely unexpected applications they hadn't thought of internally.
That's literally asking for happy accidents.
Okay, so that's proactive discovery. What about wide-eyed incubation? Sounds intriguing. Wide-eyed incubation is kind of the next step. Once you have these diverse possibilities, it's about vetting them and, crucially, testing the uncertainties around them. But instead of immediately trying to narrow the focus down to the best application, it means consciously exploring multiple paths for a while, allowing new applications to emerge as the market or potential users start to engage with the technology. It's about fostering exploration, keeping your eyes wide open to possibilities rather than prematurely shutting them down.
So resist the urge to converge too quickly. Keep exploring the potential. And I guess internal R&D still plays a big role here, right? It's not just about looking outside, but also fostering that kind of collision of ideas inside the company.
Oh, absolutely. Open innovation and looking externally is valuable for sure. But the research we looked at shows that strong internal networks, especially informal ones, are often where the really unanticipated radicalness gets uncovered.
Like people bumping into each other at the coffee machine.
Kind of. Think of things like 3M's famous Tech Forum poster sessions. They deliberately create spaces for creative collisions where R&D folks from totally different divisions can share their problems, their weird results, their solutions without problems. They learn from each other's bugs.
Right, like Art Fry learning about Spencer Silver's sticky stuff at 3M.
Exactly that kind of interaction. There's another great example from GE. They developed fluoroscopic imaging technology initially for, believe it or not, avionics inspecting airplane parts.
Okay, industrial use.
Right. But then, an R&D scientist working on that mentioned its potential imaging capabilities to a colleague who happened to be in GE's medical systems division. That conversation, that internal connection, led directly to the development of MRI technology, a completely unexpected revolutionary breakthrough for human diagnostics born from an internal chat about airplane parts.
That's incredible. It really shows how technology push, where you develop a technology first, can unexpectedly turn into market pull once people in different areas or the market itself understand what it can do and start demanding new uses.
Precisely. You see that with drone technology now, right? Started maybe with military use, then precision mapping. Now it's exploding into inspecting power plants, delivering packages, cinematography. The market keeps finding new pulls for the initial tech push.
So ultimately, it sounds like embracing the unexpected isn't just about individual genius being ready. It's a strategic organizational choice. It's about building a culture that's open, curious, and willing to invest in surprises.
Indeed. Organizations have to be prepared to take advantage of surprises when they happen. And critically, they need to actually devote attention, resources, maybe even a bit of financing to investigate these unexpected signals, even if they seem off strategy at first. The real art of radical innovation seems to be about approaching surprises with an open mind and an agile exploration that goes beyond your initial plans and expectations.
It's about being ready not just to see the apple fall like Newton, but to ask why it fell and then wonder what else that principle might apply to and who else might benefit from understanding it.
That's a perfect way to put it.
So from life-saving antibiotics like penicillin, born from moldy dishes, to the Post-it notes maybe holding up reminders on your fridge right now, it's just so clear that many of the things we really rely on weren't born from some perfectly laid out strategic plan. They came from a fortunate twist of fate coupled with insight.
Absolutely. And the common thread, the thing weaving through all these stories from Fleming and de Mestral to entire R&D departments, it really is the power of that prepared mind.
Yeah.
It's about cultivating the sagacity, the perceptiveness to not just see the unexpected thing, but to actually understand its potential and then have the drive to actively pursue it, even when it takes you way off your original course.
So, as you go about your week, maybe think about this. What little accidents or unexpected results are you encountering in your work, in your hobbies, even just around the house? Are you maybe dismissing them too quickly as just mistakes or annoyances?
Or are you cultivating that prepared mind? Are you ready to spot the potential and the anomaly?
What could you discover if you just paid a little more attention to those things that make you pause and say, huh, that's odd?